You know it's Comic-Con weekend when Robert Downey Jr. drops a teaser so loaded with implications, the internet practically melts in real time. Yes, the man himself, once the MCU's hard as Iron Man, is now back, but in a way nobody ever expected. Not as Tony Stark, but as the infamous Dr. Doom. And this week, he pulled the ultimate move by casually posting a teaser from the set of Avengers Doomsday just as Marvel launched the Fantastic Four film and its multiverse-shattering post-credit scene featuring Franklin Richards. Coincidence? Not a chance. Marvel's marketing machine is firing on all cylinders, and Downey Jr. has clearly become the face of this next wave of the MCU. But this teaser did more than break the internet. It sparked dozens of unanswered questions, reignited old fan theories, and most importantly, confirmed some of the wildest possibilities about Avengers Doomsday that no one was prepared to believe. Until now. In a cinematic universe that thrives on mystery and misdirection, Robert Downey Jr. might be the only person left with the clearance to post spoilers without fear of the infamous Marvel snipers. And that's exactly what he did. No cryptic tweet, no studio PR push, just a raw off-the-cuff moment from the set of Avengers Doomsday. Reading West Coast Avengers 30 like it's a casual lunchtime comic. Except it isn't. It's a calculated reveal. The comic issue he chose to feature isn't just fan service, it's a roadmap. And it's the kind of roadmap that Marvel Studios doesn't just toss into the public sphere without purpose. The moment he was caught with that specific issue, longtime fans knew something was up. That issue is called The Voice of Doom. And for good reason. It marks a pivotal moment in comic history when Dr. Doom, at his most unhinged and dangerous, takes on the West Coast Avengers and begins a cosmic manipulation plot that could fracture universes. Sound familiar? And just to pour gasoline on the fire, the song playing in the background of Downey Jr.'s teaser is titled A Change of Scenery, written by his son. That's not just a nice family plug. That's a meta-narrative clue. Doom's scenery is changing, not just literally in the movie's multiversal jumps, but thematically. We're not seeing the cold, iron-fisted tyrant hiding behind a mask anymore. This Doom is philosophical, personal, intimate, and possibly even relatable. Franklin Richards, the cosmic child with the power to bend galaxies, touches Doom's unmasked face in the Fantastic Four post-credits scene and doesn't flinch. That single gesture hints that Doom isn't simply the villain we expect. He might be something far more complicated. And if that post-credits scene was filmed on the Avengers Doomsday set as confirmed, then we're not just talking about cameos anymore. That moment is likely the beginning of Avengers Doomsday. But let's rewind to what's really at the center of all this. West Coast Avengers 35. In this issue, Doom is trapped in the body of a character named Christophe Vernard. And in classic Doom fashion, he captures several members of the West Coast Avengers in Castle Doom. What follows is a fight with Khonshu and Moon Knight, an assault on perception and identity, and a storyline that bends the rules of power, reality, and morality. If Marvel is truly drawing inspiration from this storyline, and all signs point to yes, it means we're going to see a version of Doom unlike anything we've seen before. A Doom who is fractured, unmoored, and existentially lost, yet more dangerous than ever. Not simply because of his intelligence, but because of his desperation to regain a lost sense of self. Here's where things get wild. That West Coast Avengers team in issue 35 wasn't just your usual lineup. It included Mockingbird, Hawkeye, Hank Pym, Wonder Man, Tigra, Moon Knight, Scarlet Witch, Vision, Wasp, and even Quicksilver, who appears antagonistically. Now here's the kicker. Marvel has already been strategically laying the groundwork for most of these characters. Wonder Man, for instance, is set to make his full series debut in December, and the way they're promoting him is unlike anything they've done before. He literally showed up in character at the Fantastic Four premiere, Simon Williams in the flesh, being treated as both real and fictional within the MCU's own meta-narrative. That's Marvel signaling they're ready to break the fourth wall, again, but on a much deeper level. And if he's showing up now, you better believe he's got a place in Avengers Doomsday. Moon Knight's inclusion is even more intriguing. Kevin Feige was recently asked about Oscar Isaac's return and gave the classic Marvel non-answer, teasing, optimistic, and deliberately vague. But if West Coast Avengers 35 is being used as a source template, then Moon Knight's presence isn't optional, it's essential. His connection to Khonshu, and by extension, to ancient powers and alternate consciousness, could be Marvel's backdoor into introducing more mysticism and fragmentation into the multiverse saga. Remember, Midnight Suns was on the docket until the Blade movie got stuck in development purgatory. But Moon Knight doesn't need Blade to matter. If he shows up in Avengers Doomsday, it's likely to be during a universe-hopping segment where different versions of the Avengers, including perhaps this pseudo-West Coast variant, are each attempting to either stop or assist Doom in their own way. Then there's the idea of alternate universe versions of the Avengers forming new temporary alliances, which opens the door to a Doom-led anti-Avengers. This is where things get truly cinematic. Imagine a scene where Robert Downey Jr.'s Doom isn't just battling heroes but assembling his own council of twisted, alternate Avengers, savage versions of the Hulk, a resurrected Ultron, or maybe even an evil Captain America. And yes, with rumors circulating of Chris Evans and Scarlett Johansson returning in some multiversal fashion, it's plausible. It wouldn't be permanent. It wouldn't undo Endgame. But it would let Marvel capitalize on nostalgia while pushing the narrative forward in bold, surreal ways. And it fits the tone perfectly. Doom, the master manipulator, using doppelgangers and corrupted variants to challenge the ideals the Avengers stand for. But here's a mindbender. What if Doom isn't just a villain in this saga? What if he's the protagonist of his own storyline? One that we follow through different universes, understanding his logic, his intentions, and his trauma. The scene with Franklin Richards all but confirms this. Franklin isn't afraid of him. He's curious. He reaches out to him. And in that moment, we realize that Doom isn't wearing a mask out of arrogance anymore. He's wearing it because something happened, something cosmic, something personal. Franklin's power, cosmic, may be restoring more than just flesh. He might be restoring memory. If Franklin helps Doom, even for a moment, it means that Doom has knowledge or power that the multiverse needs, and Franklin sees that. This could be a massive shift for the character, turning him into a morally gray pivot point rather than a clear antagonist. And it gets more interesting when you realize this scene may take place before the Thunderbolts post-credit scene. That means Avengers Doomsday could be operating on a timeline that weaves between other movies, making it a central spine for the entire next phase of Marvel. The Thunderbolts were clearly set up to be Marvel's darker team, a response to the faltering trust in traditional heroes. But what if the Thunderbolts are chasing Doom, not to destroy him, but to capture or control Franklin? What if they believe Doom is manipulating the child, when in reality, Doom might be the only one protecting him from something worse, something that will be fully revealed in Secret Wars? Now the question everyone's thinking is Robert Downey Jr.'s Doom just a variant of Tony Stark? It's tempting to believe, especially with the meta-narrative of the actor's return. But everything about the teaser points to Marvel resisting that urge. They know fans want clarity. If they made Doom just another Tony, it would dilute both legacies. Instead, what we're likely seeing is a new character entirely. Doom as his own identity, but portrayed by the face we all trust so that we question ourselves. It's a genius move. The emotional conflict doesn't stem from the character's confusion, but ours. We're conditioned to see Downey Jr. as the moral center of the MCU. But what happens when that same face becomes the universe's most dangerous outlier? And that's what makes this teaser so brilliant. It's not about showing a battle scene or a flashy costume reveal. It's about subtle emotional rewiring. It's about breaking our assumptions. Downey Jr. reading a specific comic issue, listening to a song written by his own son, posting from the set with no visual effects. This is Marvel saying, pay attention, everything matters now. They're not waiting for trailers to tell the story. They're letting their stars, especially this star, create the mythos in real time. And the way fans are picking it apart online proves how powerful that approach is. Even the choice of location matters. That teaser wasn't filmed on just any set. It was the set where Doom's scenes are being filmed. Meaning, the Baxter Building isn't just a Fantastic Four location anymore. It's the gateway to Avengers Doomsday. That's your first battleground. That's your convergence point. That's where universes bleed together, where Franklin's decisions shape timelines, and where Doom begins his ascent or his descent. If the movie begins there, it implies that Doom's interaction with Franklin is the spark for the larger crisis. A child with godlike power, a man with infinite ambition, and a multiverse teetering on collapse. It's a formula for exactly the kind of epic, operatic showdown Marvel needs right now. And it's not just theoretical. Characters like Scarlet Witch and Vision, who played smaller or more tragic roles in Phase 4, are being positioned for comebacks. The inclusion of them in West Coast Avengers 35 wasn't just about action, it was about identity. Vision's struggle with humanity. Wanda's endless search for peace. These are emotional arcs that mirror Doom's own search for restoration. If they're brought into Avengers Doomsday, it won't be for flashy team-ups. It will be for resolution, conflict, and heartbreak. And the connections only continue to deepen once you consider how Marvel is building layers between films, scenes, and even throwaway lines. This isn't Phase 1 anymore, where a character mentions CIELD, and that's your connective tissue. This is Phase 7 level storytelling, where even a background song or an old comic book can be a portal into a thematic thread that'll show up again 5 movies later. That teaser alone implies that Avengers Doomsday might not just be another team-up movie. It could be the linchpin of the entire mutant saga and multiverse war. The deeper you look into the teaser, the more you realize that Marvel isn't playing catch-up with its storylines. They've been planting seeds for this narrative since WandaVision, Loki, and Quantumania. Let's circle back to Franklin Richards. The power cosmic isn't just some plot MacGuffin. It's the ultimate narrative wildcard. Think of what this kid represents. He's born of the Fantastic Four, raised in a universe where science and magic collide, and wields the same force that created the Silver Surfer and Galactus. That's not an accident. Franklin Richards is the narrative bridge between multiversal possibility and grounded emotional storytelling. He has the power to unmake realities, to blink universes in and out of existence. And yet what does he do in that post-credit scene? He touches Doom's scarred face with empathy. It's that dissonance that rewrites what we thought we knew. This isn't Doom manipulating Franklin. This might be Franklin unlocking something buried inside Doom. Or worse, something Marvel's been hiding inside the MCU all along. Because if Franklin's powers are awakened by Doom, then Doom becomes the axis of the multiverse. Not Kang, not the Beyonder, but Doom. And if Downey Jr. is playing him, it's safe to assume Marvel doesn't want him to be a temporary figure. He's here to carry the weight of the next 2 phases, possibly as a constant across fractured realities. And this would make sense with the looming prospect of Secret Wars, where alternate timelines and twisted versions of Earth crash into each other, literally. Doom could end up as both destroyer and savior, depending on your perspective. And again, who better than Robert Downey Jr. to pull off that duality? We also can't ignore the symbolism behind the West Coast Avengers tie-in. That team, historically, wasn't just a geographical offshoot of the main Avengers, it was a thematic departure. It explored darker corners of heroism, more complex relationships, and often focused on characters who were emotionally or morally fractured. And Marvel has been quietly building that type of tone with characters like Yelena, Moon Knight, White Vision, Echo, and even Agatha. These aren't clean-cut heroes. These are people grappling with identity, guilt, legacy. The idea that Doom might face off against or even ally with this kind of team adds layers to the film that no amount of CGI can replicate. It's not about who punches hardest, it's about who survives their own inner war. And when you factor in the characters we haven't seen yet, Tigra, a possible recast Hank Pym figure, maybe even a returned Quicksilver, it becomes clear that Marvel is assembling multiple narrative threads to collide at the same moment. Some of these might be variants, others legacy characters reintroduced, but the point is the convergence. Marvel is creating collision points between timelines, ideologies, and emotional arcs. That's what Avengers Doomsday is shaping up to be. Not just a multiversal crisis, but a confrontation of every version of truth and trauma the MCU has explored since 2008. Now let's talk about the Russo brothers. There's been speculation for years about their return after Endgame, and while they've been cagey in interviews, everything from the tone of this teaser to the way it mirrors Infinity War's structure suggests their fingerprints are all over this movie. Not just in terms of directing, but in the architecture of the story. They love splitting characters into different thematic teams. Tony and Peter in space, Steve and Natasha on Earth, Thor on his own mythic quest. That kind of structure allows the audience to explore different parts of the world while building to a larger emotional payoff. And Doomsday seems primed to use that same format. We may get one team in the X-Men universe, one in the Baxter Building timeline, one inside a collapsing alternate Earth, and all of them trying to reach Doom before it's too late, or maybe trying to stop each other. That complexity is why this teaser feels different. It's not flashy. It's not spoon-fed. It's cerebral. It's a signal that Marvel is going to trust its audience to keep up. And if they're adapting elements from Voice of Doom, they're definitely going deep. That issue was never about simple good versus evil. It was about displacement. What happens when your identity is taken from you, when power becomes fragmented, and when even the people you fight against begin to reflect who you once were. It's an existential story masquerading as a supervillain caper. And Marvel seems ready to explore that level of storytelling on the big screen again. Let's not forget the meta layer here, too. Robert Downey Jr. returning, not as Iron Man, but as a character diametrically opposed to Iron Man, is a story in itself. For over a decade, he was the moral backbone of the MCU. He was the compass. And now he's the storm. That narrative flip doesn't just work in story, it works on the audience's subconscious expectations. Marvel is leveraging our memories, our emotional attachments, and even our skepticism. They're weaponizing nostalgia not just to sell tickets, but to challenge what fans thought they knew about the MCU. You thought Tony Stark was the peak of complexity? Wait until you see him behind Doom's mask. And here's another layer that nobody's talking about yet. Doom may not be the only version of himself in the film. The multiverse implies iterations, and if this Doom is self-aware, he might be hunting or uniting with other versions of himself. Imagine a multiversal council of Dooms, each representing a different philosophical viewpoint. A scientist Doom who never touched magic. A tyrant Doom who never lost. A Tony Stark version who fused technology and sorcery. And maybe, just maybe, a version who turned away from all of it and became something else entirely. This wouldn't just expand Doom's threat level, it would mirror the emotional conflict that we've seen in previous Avengers films. Only now, instead of Thanos facing resistance from others, Doom might face resistance from within himself. This also opens the door for characters like Scarlet Witch and Vision to play unexpected roles. Both have dealt with alternate realities, personal loss, and existential crises. Wanda literally created an entire pocket reality to cope with grief. Vision has become a ghost of himself, White Vision, now roaming the world without memory, but with fragments of his former self. If they cross paths with Doom, the emotional resonance could be huge. Wanda could see Doom as another broken figure trying to control the uncontrollable. Vision might recognize in Doom a mind as advanced but corrupted by obsession. Their presence wouldn't just be fan service. It would reinforce the core theme of identity fragmentation across time and space. But perhaps the most curious character that might link all of this together is Kang, or rather the absence of Kang. With Jonathan Majors no longer attached and Kang's arc seemingly pushed aside, Marvel now has the space to promote Doom as the central threat. And it fits. Kang was always a more technical villain, reliant on time mechanics. Doom is philosophical. Doom is personal. He's chaos cloaked in logic. And by pushing Kang into the shadows, Marvel is setting the stage for Doom to be more than just a villain. He's a mirror to every hero that failed to hold the world together and an icon for those who believe control is the only answer to entropy. Even the MCU's visual language is starting to reflect this tonal shift. The teaser's raw footage, the choice of color palettes, even the subtle use of practical set pieces instead of full CGI environments, all of this suggests a return to grounded, character-driven tension, even within the grand multiversal framework. It's not about spectacle alone. It's about atmosphere. Marvel learned from its critics. After several overstuffed films and projects, they seem to be recalibrating. And Avengers Doomsday, with Downey Jr. at its center, is the perfect inflection point. It's also important to note that we're likely going to see more meta-narrative devices inside the actual film. With Wonder Man's TV series promoting itself through in-universe media and timely comics appearing in the Fantastic Four film, the MCU is starting to eat itself in a good way. These are signs of a self-aware franchise using its own mythology as plot devices. So don't be surprised if Avengers Doomsday includes scenes where characters read about their own actions in comic books or question whether their universe is being manipulated by forces even they don't understand. These aren't gimmicks anymore, they're core to how the multiverse saga works. So what does all of this mean for Secret Wars? Well, the implications are massive. If Avengers Doomsday ends with Doom in control of a collapsing multiverse, or at least one version of it, then Secret Wars becomes the natural escalation. It becomes not just a war between heroes and villains, but between entire realities. And Doom, as the bridge character, might be the only one who understands the cost of reshaping the universe. We might see characters from every previous Marvel film. Fox's X-Men, Sony's Spider-Man, alternate versions of Deadpool and Wolverine, all converging in a fractured space-time construct held together by Doom's will alone. Battleworld isn't just a backdrop anymore, it's an extension of Doom's psyche. And this is where the real genius of casting Downey Jr. shines. Because even when he was Tony Stark, his greatest weapon wasn't the suit, it was his mind. That same intelligence, now corrupted by pain, cosmic knowledge, and power, becomes the ultimate threat, but also potentially the ultimate salvation. Because if anyone understands sacrifice, it's him. And that might be the emotional through line of both Doomsday and Secret Wars. Doom may not be defeated. He may choose to dismantle his empire for reasons no one else can understand. That kind of emotional payoff only works with a character who was once the heart of the MCU. And that's why Downey Jr. was the only choice. So while the teaser might look simple on the surface, a man reading a comic, music playing in the background, it's anything but. It's a layered, intentional, emotionally charged preview of what could be the most important Marvel film since Endgame. Every frame, every detail, every reference pulls from decades of lore, storytelling, and character development. It's not just teasing plot points, it's teasing a shift in the way Marvel tells stories. And we haven't even seen an official trailer yet. And that's what makes this moment so crucial. Because for the first time since Avengers Endgame, Marvel is on the cusp of redefining itself, not by building something new from scratch, but by digging deep into its own mythology and daring to evolve it in ways fans never saw coming. The use of West Coast Avengers isn't just a fun nod to comic lore, it's Marvel showing us where they're mining their next great saga from. These are characters with complicated pasts, emotionally volatile arcs, and tangled relationships. And in the hands of Doctor Doom, they become instruments of a larger philosophical question. Can the multiverse be saved by control, or must it be allowed to collapse and rebuild naturally? And there's another layer at play here. One that fans have long theorized but never quite confirmed, Marvel's slow convergence of all its branches into one singular canon. We've seen Sony's Spider-Verse bleed into the MCU. We've seen Fox's mutants inch closer to center stage. The presence of Franklin Richards, who canonically bridges multiple timelines, now practically guarantees that we're heading toward a single narrative event where every thread, every alternate film, every legacy character gets a moment of reckoning. And guess who's always been at the center of those massive reality-bending events in the comics? Dr. Victor Von Doom. Now portrayed by the one person who once symbolized hope, reason, and sacrifice in the Marvel Universe, Robert Downey Jr. That transformation isn't just symbolic, it's poetic. Doom, in many ways, is the inverted Stark. Both are men of genius intellect. Both suffered from pride. Both tried to shape the world in their image. But where Stark learned humility through failure and sacrifice, Doom doubled down on ambition and power. And in the hands of Downey Jr., this character can be explored with the emotional maturity and complexity he deserves. This isn't just a man in armor. This is a god grappling with his own humanity. And Marvel seems to be giving him the full space to breathe, evolve, and even perhaps redeem. And when we talk redemption, we need to talk Franklin. Because that one scene, just seconds long, could very well become the foundation of Marvel's next arc. It's clear that Franklin's power levels are off the charts. He's being positioned not just as a cosmic being, but as the last child of a dying multiverse. That's not speculation. That's setup. Franklin doesn't just heal Doom's face, he touches something deeper. Whether it's memory, emotion, or suppressed identity, that touch may have been the moment that stopped Doom from doing something irreversible. Or maybe it's the moment that convinces Doom the boy must be protected at all costs, even from himself. What's more, the context of that scene being filmed on the Avengers Doomsday set makes it very likely that we're going to open the film with this relationship. It might even be the event that sets everything in motion. Maybe Franklin, sensing danger in the multiverse, seeks out Doom instead of his parents. Maybe Reed Richards doesn't even know what Franklin has done. That creates a dynamic we've never seen before. A powerful child voluntarily aligning with the MCU's most dangerous intellect, not out of fear, but from a sense of destiny. And that might be what throws the Fantastic Four into the chaos of Avengers Doomsday. Because imagine if the movie begins not with a team of heroes assembling, but with a team of heroes disbanding, fractured over what to do about Doom and Franklin. That kind of moral complexity is what elevated films like Captain America: Civil War. It wasn't about powers. It was about choices. And Doomsday seems poised to revive that narrative energy in full force. But where it goes beyond even Civil War is in scope. With so many timelines overlapping, so many universes breaking apart, the question becomes, who has the right to decide what reality survives? Is it the Council of Kangs? Not anymore. Is it the TV? Possibly disbanded. Is it the Avengers? They don't even exist in their old form. That void is what allows Doom to rise, not as a tyrant, but as a necessary constant. A man with enough power and clarity to impose order when everything else is shattering. And that's likely why we'll see multiple factions form around him, some to stop him, some to support him, and some unsure where they stand. The West Coast Avengers reference wasn't an accident. That team was always about second chances, underdogs, and people who didn't fit into the standard mold. Yelena, Wonder Man, Moon Knight, these are heroes who never got their full moment to shine. But in a world where reality is fraying, they might be the only ones capable of navigating the moral ambiguity needed to confront Doom on his terms. And you can be sure Marvel is going to exploit that narrative gold mine. Wonder Man is literally playing himself inside his own show. That's next level meta. And it's being used to show the artificiality of the Marvel universe from within. He's not just a character, he's a commentary. Moon Knight's dissociative identity disorder could be used as a metaphor for multiversal collapse, each of his personas representing a different variant, a different fate. And Yelena's unresolved grief over Natasha may mirror the trauma of fans who aren't ready to let go of the past. That emotional resonance is going to be critical, because Avengers Doomsday won't just be about who fights who, it'll be about who lets go, who clings to control, and who becomes something new in the process. The teaser hints at this shift. Downey Jr. isn't trying to intimidate in the clip. He's being reflective. He's reading. He's absorbing. That's not a villain preparing to conquer. That's a man preparing to understand. And if Doom begins this story in pain and ends it in transcendence, then Marvel may have pulled off its most complex arc to date. Now let's talk Secret Wars again. Because what Doomsday sets up, Secret Wars must pay off. And if we take inspiration from the 2015 comic run where Doom becomes God Emperor of Battleworld, fusing all timelines into a single fragmented realm, we could see a version of that translated into the MCU. Not literally, but thematically. Imagine a patchwork world composed of leftover universes. One section ruled by mutants, another by magical entities. One area stuck in the Age of Ultron timeline. One in a post-apocalyptic X-Men future. And in the center of it all, Doom's fortress. Constructed not from steel, but from memories and remnants of every fallen hero he could not save. That's the kind of cinematic climax Marvel is capable of delivering. And it all starts with this teaser. With a song written by a son, with a man reading a comic, with a mask not yet worn. These small details, these quiet moments, they're the seeds of a universe on the brink. And they're placed there not by accident, but by design. Marvel knows exactly what it's doing. Robert Downey Jr. is the marketing campaign, the message, the myth. And it's no wonder that even without a full trailer, fans are already theorizing endlessly. Will we see an evil Hulk variant from Earth X? A Wolverine from the Fox timeline clashing with Deadpool over whether their world should even survive? Will Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man deliver a final swing in a world crumbling to dust, only to meet Doom face to face in the end? These are the kinds of events Marvel can now stage, and Doomsday is the entry point. But there's one more twist Marvel might be setting up, and it's hiding in plain sight. What if the entire multiverse saga has been orchestrated by Doom from the beginning? What if Kang was just another pawn? The Time Variance Authority? A failed prototype of Doom's true vision? What if the incursions were not accidents, but trials? Tests to see which worlds deserve to survive and which should be erased. That would reframe the past 5 years of Marvel stories completely. Loki's actions, Wanda's grief, Strange's gambles, they'd all be seen through a new lens. Not as random chaos, but as curated entropy. And that would make Doom the ultimate architect, not just of the final battle, but of the entire post-Endgame MCU. And who better to unveil that revelation than the man who started it all? That's why this teaser hit harder than expected. It wasn't loud. It wasn't flashy. But it was loaded. It wasn't a cry for attention. It was a whisper from the eye of the storm. Downey Jr., eyes down, comic in hand, score in the background. It's the calm before the narrative hurricane. And it's not a question of if Avengers Doomsday will change the MCU. It's a question of how far it will go. Because we are past the point of linear storytelling, past the point of simple callbacks and cameos. This is the age of recursion, of memory and meaning folding in on themselves, where a song lyric can foreshadow fate, where a casting decision echoes through time, where Dr. Doom is no longer a villain, but a reflection of every decision made, every world left behind, and every sacrifice that wasn't enough. So when you see that teaser again, when you see him hold that comic, hear that song, feel that weight, know that it's not a tease, it's a warning. The age of heroes has ended. The age of consequence has begun. And Doomsday isn't just a title, it's a reckoning.